Howdy guys, welcome to another stats video. Today we're going to talk about confidence intervals for proportions, the number of times something happens out of a certain number of attempts, which is going to be different than confidence intervals for means. So on the first day of school, one student claimed that nickels are actually heavier on one side, more likely to be tails if we spin a nickel. Today we'll investigate whether that's true. So the directions: take a nickel, spin a nickel 30 times and record the number of heads. Okay, I did this and I got I got 18 heads and 12 tails. So the proportion of heads is the number of heads out of total spin. So that's 18 out of 30. Okay. So a confidence interval is a statistic plus or minus margin of error. You've heard that in political polls and stuff like that, right? What's the margin of error? With a confidence interval, we can be blank % confident that we have the true value of the parameter within the interval. So there's kind of a lot here. For confidence intervals, usually we use 90, 95, or 99% confidence levels, and they have different z stars. So this is sort of our, well, this is our equation for confidence intervals for proportions. So we're going to build these by hand, and then I'm going to show you a way of using technology to check them. Okay. So what in the heck is p hat? That's what that looks like, kind of a hat, right? That's your sample proportion. And one more thing, we use this verbiage of statistic here. Statistic comes from a sample, and then they use the verbiage parameter. Parameter is for the population. So the idea is we don't have the population of all nickel spins. We just have a sample of it. Okay, so we're basing our confidence interval on this sample. So this proportion that we have is a statistic. And we're trying to make assumptions or educated guesses on whether or not we've caught the actual number of spins of nickels, period, right? So the population. So Z star, it's kind of funny looking, but it is what it is. It's the number of standard deviations and that relates to confidence level. Okay, so for each confidence level, they have a different Z star. Okay, and then N is sample size, like it's been. Okay, so we're going to calculate a 90% confidence interval, 95 and 99% confidence interval based on our sample. Record our intervals on the whiteboard. Well, we're not going to do that. Okay, so 90% is going to be 18 out of 30. That's our p hat. Plus or minus our z star, and for 90% it's 1.645 times the square root of p hat is 18 over 30 times 1 minus p hat all over n. So the plus and the minus gives us a lower bound for the confidence interval, and the plus gives us the upper bound. This is 0.4529, 0.7412. Okay, to check this guy, just out of room, and it won't let me write off to the side on this video. To check, we're going to do sample size dot net. I added this to Blend, so you ought to have a link to it, and I would just bookmark it. / confidence dash interval. I don't know why it's being weird. Interval / proportion. Okay. And it'll let you check those. So I'm going to pause this and I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to go to that website. Okay, so I went to the website. You can see that's what it is up here. Our N is our sample size, and our sample size is 30. Our X is the number of the sample that were heads. That's 18. That's the numerator. And then this confidence interval we're checking is 90. I'm going to hit calculate. And the only weird thing is, and it's going to look like nothing happened. The only weird thing is there's a couple different options here. You want the second one. You'll notice that these are the exact numbers. Well, almost, right? There is a small difference from time to time. Like I wrote down in the notes, 0.7472 for the upper bound here. It's a rounding thing, okay? So this is going to be close enough for sure. Even on the AP Stats test, they take within one off here, just because it depends on how you round stuff, right? So you're always going to use the number 2, the normal approximation to the binomial calculation, not the number 1. You can see those numbers are kind of similar, but it's a bigger confidence interval, right? The lower bound is smaller and the upper bound is larger. So don't want to use 1, we want to use number 2. So denominator, numerator, confidence level. Those are the 3 things. Calculate, it's going to look like nothing happened, and then look at number 2 for lower bound and upper bound. Okay, so that's how we check these. 95% confidence interval, because it wants 90, 95, and 99, all 3. This is going to look very similar. It's going to have a different Z star, 1.96, and the rest of the stuff's the same. So this is 0.4247 up to 0.7753. So if we make this confidence interval a little bit bigger, our percentage that we've actually captured what we wanted to is good, right? It increases. So as the confidence level increases, your confidence interval gets bigger, right? You got to use a bigger net. You can be more sure that you're catching the actual proportion, population proportion. That word we talked about, parameter. So for 99, everything's the same except for your Z star. It's 2.576. And you could check each of these 3 if you wanted to. The only thing that's going to change when you go to that website is going to be your confidence level, right? Okay, so we need to talk about how we let's write our conclusion, and you're going to see a couple of these. If we are 95% confident, that means 95% of the time the true proportion, okay, of all nickels, or whatever it is, will be within the confidence interval. Now this gets mixed up from time to time. There's not a 95% chance that the true proportion will be in any specific interval. It either is or it isn't. Okay, it's either a 1% chance, or 100% chance, or a 0% chance that it's in any given interval. But if we did this enough, over and over and over again, then we'd see that 95% of the time we would capture the true proportion. That's what this statement at the end means. So, a larger confidence level means that your confidence interval is wider. A larger sample size means that your confidence interval is smaller. So this is kind of important. If we want our confidence interval to be more narrow, we want to be more specific, and we want to keep the same confidence level, the only thing that we can change is sample size. We take a bigger sample. Take a bigger sample, we can cast a smaller net and be just as sure. Okay. So here's the example, and then you guys have some practice to work. The example says 37 Austin High students were polled on whether they would prefer a longer school day with a longer lunch to the current schedule. And 27 responded no. Mr. McGraw, who's an old AP, some of you may remember him, says that this is convincing evidence that most students would prefer this schedule. Construct a 95% confidence interval to determine whether Mr. McGraw's claim is correct. So, X is the numerator, and N is the total. The confidence level, they tell us, is 0.95. So the numerator is going to be the number of no's in this case. Okay. So hold on just a second. I'm going to take you over to that website, and we're going to calculate this this confidence interval. Hang on. Okay, so I made the denominator 37, the numerator 27, the number of no's, and then the confidence level is 95. Calculate, and you can see our lower bound and upper bound. That's where that came from. Okay, I'm running out of time on this video, so I went ahead and filled this out. But I wrote down our confidence interval. I noted that they're all greater than half, because we're talking about the majority or not. So I said we're 95% confident that the true proportion of Austin High students that do not prefer the schedule, do not because we're counting no's, is between 58.67% and 87.28%. And not only that, but because the whole interval's over 0.5 or 50%, we do have strong evidence that the majority does not support this schedule. Okay? So you guys try those two. If you need help, come into tutoring and I can help you out.